I just actually got in from Austin, Texas at 2 o'clock in the morning. I got in bed, but I was speaking down there at the state CIO conference, and guess what? Security was a big topic. So obviously on the minds of all the state CIOs and the CISOs, a lot of them were there as well. Our new state of Alaska CIO and the brand new CISO were there. So it was an interesting talk, obviously. But it's good to be here with you all. I am Jim Bates. I'm just a janitor. Really, seriously, I feel humbled by that presentation, but I've been blessed to be able to do a lot of things. And so today I wanted to do a little talk about maybe a different approach to security. And I want it to be very interactive. So I don't want to just be like I'm up here giving a lecture. I want to be, hearing feedback and kind of a discussion. So is that fair? Everyone in here up for that? Good. All right. So let's discuss your role. How many in here know what your organization's mission and vision is? Good. How many don't? I mean, to be honest, if someone doesn't really know, they couldn't quote their vision and mission right now. Is there anyone honest enough to say? All right, good. We have a couple honest people. All right. It's just, for a dialogue here, right? Understanding what is your organization's mission and vision and core values, what are we all about as a company? Because how many in here are in management and security? How many are practitioners? All right, so mostly we got practitioners and technicians. Any executives or non-IT people? All right, so can I ask you what your role is?
Yeah, I'm a technology recruiter.
Oh, you're a recruiter. Oh, this is awesome. Good. And I know Mary. And who are you with, Mary?
Dantech Services.
Oh, okay.
To wear all hats.
Right. Yeah, Mary's great. If you ever need any kind of transition stuff done or change management, she's the lady to see. All right, so it's good to know that people know their mission and visions, because we're going to talk about what are your biggest challenges in your job. I mean, what are you guys faced with in your roles that kind of drive you nuts? Does anyone want to pop a few out? What are the challenges you're facing today?
Conveying the importance of information security.
Conveying the importance, so communicating it to who? Executives, others, customers?
Clients.
Clients.
Yeah,
all right.
Don't understand it.
Good. So clients, anybody else?
Users.
Users.
I mean, same thing, trying to convey to them the importance of, don't
Get-
click on the
yeah.
link.
All right.
The breakdown in seeing IT as simply an expense instead of an integral part of your infrastructure and your way of doing business, because I can guarantee I can shut down 99% of all businesses in town here by turning off their internet.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good. This is going to be relevant later. You'll see these are great. Anybody else? Anyone else? And if just interrupt too, if you.
Like organizational challenges.
Organizational challenges.
IT direction, you got big enterprise.
You come to work, you get your cup of coffee, and the first challenge you run into, I mean, other than trying to just make sure that everyone stays safe, right? How about, do you feel like in IT security that people don't understand the importance of what you do? Even people that maybe are in charge? Because whenever you go to say, hey, we need funding for that.
I think it's it's not going to happen to me attitude that a lot of people have.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think coming from a bigger market and coming up to Alaska and recruiting up here, I have a super big passion for InfoSec, so I love it and understand the value. And I think that a lot of the companies in Alaska, when I first came up here 2 years ago, were like, why would they come after us?
Yeah.
Until they do.
Yeah, no, people, they get complacent. They just want to say, well, it won't happen to us. So how easy is it to communicate these challenges to executives, to bosses, maybe even to users? It's like sometimes we speak a different language, right? And I think we do. I like this from Bill Gates. Information technology and business are so interwoven that you can't really talk about one without the other now. I would say this, that technology was always kind of considered a salt mine operation. You're a service organization that serves us, and we might need some technology or not. But I would say that technology has really become the strategy. Because most companies now are revolving around technology. They're disrupting. Think about Uber. I took an Uber ride to the airport in Austin, and it's technology. I literally got on my phone, and within 3 minutes there was someone there, and it was like way cheaper than a taxi. Right? So that's revolving around technology solving a problem and disrupting the way that people consume things, right? So I would suggest that this is a really true statement, and it's becoming more and more so that IT isn't just some side thing that you need to support your organization. It's the very fabric of your company. And I think executives today, the ones that are going to go forward, the CEOs, the CEOs, they're going to have to understand how important this is. Because if they don't, I really feel like it's going to bite them. I like this one too. CISOs or executives, a lot of times, is there any CISOs in the room at the top? What are you doing, Max? You're the janitor, I know. You're like me. Okay, I won't punch you out. But sometimes, you know, they're good technicians, but they have a hard time understanding the language of business. I used to tell some of my staff at the state, I said, you know, they come to bring their budgets. And I go, what if this was your business and this was your company? How would you treat the money then? Would it be differently? So you want them to understand you. I think it's like a relationship. We're going to talk about that. How many men and women have sometimes issues understanding the opposite sex? Men are from Mars and Venus, the whole thing, whatever, right? There's sometimes, I think, executives and technicians, there's this gap in communication about understanding each other. So I want to give some tips today that maybe you can take away that might help with that. So let's talk about your role. What do you believe the value is that you add to your organization?
Single loss expectancy multiplied by exposure factor equals annual losses.
See, now a business executive would go, what the heck did he just say? What does that mean to me, right? But you know, that's what you feel. You believe, man, I wish that you could understand what that means, right?
What it's going to cost the organization if they lose their information.
Bingo. How about anybody else? That was good. I liked it. It was a great segue.
I like to focus on the brand.
The brand.
Yeah.
The brand. What would that do to your reputation? Yep. Those are hard to recover. Yeah, that's a slide coming up. That's a great segue again, right? So how do you measure success? How do you know that you're successful? If that's what you believe your value is that you bring, how do you know if you're bringing success or not? Is it just, well, they just need to see how good I'm doing my job and recognize that? Or is there a way that you can really communicate to them the value you bring and how you measure that that's important to them as well? Thoughts? So I'm kind of shaking you from a different way because I've been in the executive, I've been a technician, I've been in the trenches, and I see this gap, and I think sometimes maybe if we talk about it, we might start thinking about ways we can bring that together better, even like with users, getting them involved and understanding the importance. Some of the worst phishing attempt breaches at state government were with commissioner level people that fell for it. So you would think it's just, the lackey user. No, it's the people that are supposed to be in charge making the budget and the strategic decisions that are sometimes the victims of the phishing attempt. What was that, Max, do you remember at the state when we did that test? We tested to see how many people would fall for a phishing attempt.
Right.
And it was like 70% of the high-level staff that did.
Yeah.
It was a high percentage, or maybe 30.
Have the most information or the most access.
Yeah, they had the most access. It's the biggest, detriment, right? So how does your boss measure success? Do you know what's important to them? Do you even care? You want them to care what's important to you. You want them to care about how you measure success, but do you understand how they measure success? And is that, see, it's a two-way communication thing. So you really want to be understood about the value you bring, what you do. You've been trained, you're experts, you're protecting the organization all the time. It's like they hired you as a bodyguard and there's a sniper on the hill and you've got them out of harm's way. And it's kind of sad to say that after what happened in Vegas. Man, what a bad deal. But, it's true. We need to understand how our bosses or how those that run the company that we work for measure success. Would you agree? So can you align and relate what's important to you, how you measure things, to how the organization as a whole measures things? Because if there's a mission and vision of the organization, there's a purpose. I spent 7 years working at Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. And I remember talking to the IT staff and I would say, what's the vision of this company or this organization? And they were like, I don't know. And I go, well, the vision is that Alaska Natives are the healthiest people in the world. So what's the mission? I don't know. Well, the mission is we provide the highest quality of health care in partnership with our people in the Alaska Native Tribal Health System. That was 2008 when I left there, and I still remember that, right? Because when I go to work for an organization, I want to know what they're about. I want to be engaged with the purpose of the company I work for. So somebody said, what do you do for work? And I go, I'm a programmer. I go, no, you're not. Yes, I am. I'm a programmer. I go, you're a healthcare provider. This company exists to provide health care, and you're part of that value stream. So if you can see the bigger picture of why a company exists and engage, you're going to be way more effective getting support, investment for what you do every day. Guaranteed. Anybody disagree or have a comment? All right, let's move along. So now to your point about the Equifax. So here's a good way for you to start the communication dialogue, because the executives are reading this too. The executives in your organization or the people that are leading it are seeing the news about Equifax, and now the June 2017 FedEx $300 million hit to earnings. Mandela, which was Kraft, 5% drop in quarterly sales. Maersk, the big shipper, 200 and 300 million they're saying as their losses just from that one virus, that one attack. So, and that's just those companies. There's a lot more costs associated. So if a company is in business or an organization, I don't care if you're federal, if you're state, if you're local, if you're private, it doesn't matter. You all do something for someone, and you need to protect that. Whether you produce services or products, you serve communities or people, it doesn't matter. You have a brand. There's financial aspects to it because you can't have an organization, even a nonprofit, without money. Right? So this is a good dialogue to start the conversation, because this is important to the company. What happens if this happens to us? So somebody said, a lot of times they just think that'll never happen to us, right? But it's happening to companies all the time now. This is 2017. Go back to 2016, 15, and start talking about all the, go to Sony and go to, Home Depot through a HVAC system they got in, right? So it's all about compliance, right? No? Good. Who said no? What does compliance mean to us? What if you define compliance, what does that mean? Check boxes. What else?
Living up to somebody's ideas of regulations and what you should be doing to check boxes.
Check boxes. So maybe meeting minimum requirements?
Yeah, lowest common denominator.
Right? So, yeah, okay, I complied with some HIPAA, FERPA, CGIS, you name it. There's regulatory compliance everywhere. And so we're just going to be compliant. It's just saying you meet the minimum. Don't you believe that we as organizations have a better, higher responsibility about protecting brand and doing the right thing? It's a bigger moral issue, really, than just compliance. Anyone disagree or have another thought or comment? All right, so is our definition the right approach? So I think we understand that checking a box is not the right approach. Would anyone disagree with that? We have to check the boxes. I'm not saying that. But compliance in and of itself is not what we're talking about. And I think we answered the why question. So how do we measure things, and what do those measurements reveal about us? Measurements are huge.
Maybe setting up tests, like you said, phishing attacks, or setting up honeypots on your network. Maybe make a fake sea level in your company and see if you get some phishing emails. Feedback from actual active threats is a huge value prop for your higher peers.
Yeah, and those are metrics that you can actually demonstrate, right? So the problem with most metrics, how we measure stuff, how we measure our success, how we decide if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing as an organization or as a sub-organization, we encourage people to do the wrong things a lot of times by how we measure things. How many are frustrated by your evaluations that come up when your boss goes to evaluate you and there's all this criteria and you're like, what is this? This is not even meaningful to me. What does that mean? And it encourages you to do, you just want to pass your eval, so it becomes almost like a subjective thing that's not really relevant in my mind. I think a lot of times we motivate wrong behavior through bad metrics. Anyone disagree with that? So not driving people to focus on the few right things. There's really only a few right things in every organization. What is our purpose? What is the mission and vision of our company? What are we all here for? Yes, I have a security job and it's very important, but there's also someone at the top who's responsible for making this company keep going. That has to pay the bills, make sure the revenue's coming in, make sure that, but you know what? Risk is important, and we're going to end with risk at the end of this conversation because it's important to everyone. So, good metrics facilitate discussion, insight, and analysis. Bad metrics prompt furious arguments about methodology. I love that quote. So, and I've been there where people argue about metrics. At the state, it was like, this is a meaningless metric. It doesn't even make sense to me.
It's just saying that, numbers never lie, but only liars use numbers.
Yeah. I have a great book, How to Lie by Statistics, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, if you don't measure it, you can't really improve it. So if you want to improve your relationship, if you want to improve your ability to communicate to others, then measures really reveal our values. What we value is how we measure things. Or sometimes we just are forced to measure things that aren't valuable and we don't know why, but it shows about the company if they don't catch it, right? Measures drive behavior, they inspire us, and perhaps most important, they help us learn and we can make decisions. And so we're trying to help the company make decisions about how to invest, how to avoid risk, right? What is security really all about? What is it? It's like we had a data center outage when I first went to the state, 2013, May, and like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, a transformer blew up in Juneau, and the data center was down hard because the generators that were 30 years old, they didn't start. They're trying to figure that out. The UPSs died, and we had a major failure of a single point of failure, which was this virtual tape system that was all the money that went out of the state to anybody. Paychecks, child support, retirees. They couldn't, and so it went to the news. It was like crisis. The commissioners in there like, and I'm brand new to the job, right? And so the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, comes screaming and yelling about the data center thing, and he was kind of he liked DGS a lot, the general services who had the generators, right? And so he's yelling at me about, what is your guy in there wanting to know about what these generators and all that? I says, well, can I ask you a question, sir, with all due respect? Why do we have generators in the first place? So if the power goes out, we can have lights? That would be nice. Or how about to protect the most important asset of the state, our data? Every email, every paycheck, every piece of information that happens in the state is stored in that room down there, and that's the issue, right? So trying to communicate to them the importance of what we do, right? And to do it in a way where they can get it. And this was a commissioner that kind of later, he was kind of the kind that he liked to yell and scream a lot, but you know, he got things done. All right, so are we getting it right in the security industry? Out of 1,006 organizations throughout US and EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa, that were CIOs, CISOs, and other IT, 22% of those organizations were engaged with the board in the last 12 months. And only 34% were part of the strategic business priority, cybersecurity. So if that is our industry getting it right, and that's just a sampling, but those statistics, there's a margin of error maybe, but that still makes us want to wonder, are we getting it right? So how about any of these metrics? These look familiar to you guys at all? Are these really important at the end of the day? Some of them are, maybe some of them aren't. But let me get it to you this way. Say you work for a zoo, and you're the giraffe display keeper, and you just love giraffes, and it's all about giraffes. And so you have these metrics about, you know, the average lengths of necks, the ratio between males and females, how many spots per whatever, that are really important to you. And then the guy who runs the zoo comes by and goes, how are we doing with this? Oh, I got this metric about, I mean, how much revenue is coming in here? How much cost do we have? And how much do we have to, does it cost to shovel the poop or whatever, you know? That's what's important to somebody at the top running the zoo. So what we have to understand is these metrics might be important to us, but how can you relate those to what's important to the organization as a whole? And so I use this example at times when I teach. I put a picture of a Formula One race car up and I go, what's the metrics that are important here? And what would you say? Speed, horsepower, drag coefficients. I always get that. I go, well, what if you own the race team? Then this is what I get. It must have something to do with revenue. How do you get revenue as a race team? Sponsors, fan bases. How do you do that? Oh, we got to win races. Oh, so winning races is our big metric. So now, how do we win races with our organization? Well, we have drivers, we have cars, we have pit stop crew, we have mechanics, and all of them have metrics, but they're not really important unless we win races. So if I'm a pit stop crew, what do you think what's the metric there? How fast? Time, right? So if I can shave 2 seconds off my pit stop crew time for the car, that contributes to what? Lap time, which helps me what? Win races. So if you can do that dialogue with people who are funding you, paying the budgets in your organization, you'll be way more successful to say, if I can get this investment to shave 2 seconds off this is what we're going to do for our winning races, which is going to help us meet our objective as a company. What is the purpose of your company, the mission and vision of your organization, and can you relate your job to what's important to the people at the top? So these are all great metrics, but some of these do we have a way of saying how that's important to the organization? Can we communicate these metrics? So I would say this. Love my little slide animations? Okay. I figured if I'm a boring speaker, at least you'll have fun with my slides. Yeah. So services and service management. IT really is a service delivery, even though I believe that's trending to be where you're going to be the fabric of an organization. Technology and the business are going to be so interwoven you can't talk about one without the other. But in the meantime, we are a service organization. So delivering outcomes that customers value without them having ownership of cost and risk. What does that mean? Utility, warranty. So here's a definition of an ITIL definition of service management. How many have seen the ITIL thing? Service life cycles. So here's something, I really love this quote from this professor out of Harvard Business School. People don't want quarter-inch drill bits, they want quarter-inch holes. So we're IT. I need money for quarter-inch drills. I need money for quarter-inch drills. And they go, I don't want no quarter-inch drills. Well, it's how we make the holes. Well, all they want to talk about is the holes. So here's an example. At the state, I needed bandwidth in Bethel. I needed bandwidth in Dillingham. But they didn't want to keep, even though they kept saying bandwidth is our top priority, they didn't want to ask me asking for money for bandwidth. So you had to get creative. I want to educate more kids in Dillingham. I want to solve crime faster in Dillingham. And I need an investment to do that. And I had metrics then to start saying, if we can do this investment, here's how it's going to impact education, public safety. So then you start tying what you're asking for back to something that's important to what, it's their business language. So understand the language of the business. Understand what the business exists for, or the organization. I call it a business. It could be higher education, it could be state government, it could be private sector, it could be anything. But if you understand what the business exists for and you can relate what you do to that, maybe then we get innovative and it's not even drill bits we need anymore. You can ask the business, why do you need these holes in the first place? Well, we got to drain this water that comes down through this deal, and you can go back to the innovative technology group and say, hey, what if we just put a crease down that? We don't have to drill holes anymore. It just water runs out, right? So now you can solve the problem as a business partner strategically by engaging with them and understanding their problem, and you're not so disconnected. So bring Mars and Venus together. People that are smart that make the ship work, and those up there are supposed to be driving it. All right, so here's a really good, I love this because utility and warranty. This is an Endor. How many are familiar with Endors? All right, so is performance supported, cost removed? I'll give you a really simple example of what this is. So we're really talking about the what and the how, that we provide something. And so if a customer wants value from us, we're a value service provider. Let's just say it's a network. How do we measure networks most of the time? Availability, maybe speed. So our network is available 99.9999, and you tell the business owner that, and they're like, so I came in this morning on the Glen Highway, and it was available, but the performance might suck, right? Sorry if I... Seriously, right? So my customer experience was, I don't care how available the road was. It was like constrained, there was latency, whatever you want to do, right? So we need to figure out how the customer experiences what we deliver and be able to really understand their pain so they can understand ours. Anyone agree? Other thoughts, comments? So it's really building a relationship with the people you work with. You're all in it together, you're a team. It's like you're both needed to fulfill the purpose of the organization. You need executives. Sometimes we don't feel like we do, but we do. Really, those guys just don't get it. But at the same time, they don't understand the pain you go through a lot of times either. Really, a good metric framework helps you from the strategy or vision of the company to validate it, to direct your targets and metrics to be the ones that are meaningful, to justify your IT performance and your investment, and to actually help change the organization, make decisions, right? You're going to give meaningful information to the executives and say, we're partnering with you to solve the business problem, and we're here as your partner. So these are some really good thoughts about it. So we're going to end up on risk management, and then we'll have an open discussion if there's time left. I don't even know where we're at on time. Are we doing good?
Yeah, you're good. You still have 20 minutes.
Sweet. I like it. And I talk fast. How many are aware of that? And I actually think that I'm talking like this because I mentally try to slow down. But in the old days, I was faster, if you can believe it or not. So what does risk management mean to you, to your boss? What is your organization's risk appetite? How good has IT been at understanding this, and why do you think this exists? Can anyone articulate any thoughts on this?
I think this is the biggest challenge, risk management, quantifying risk. probability is dependent on your threat actor, and if China or Russia is your threat actor, your risk is 100%. So it's risk management is my most difficult part of my job, quantifying risk, which should be a very easy assessment.
You're right.
I'm completely stuck on it.
Good. So we'll talk about it. Anybody else? I saw it. Yep.
I think it's pulling together the right information so that strategic leaders can make decisions.
That's true. Your partners. So anyone else?
I had a comment to one of the challenges in risk management that we encounter is that, so to the probability point, well, probability is a quantification of ignorance. And at a certain level, we have an epistemological, a knowledge issue that there are threats that we have yet to encounter. So we put this probability times and that accuracy of that number, sometimes like how confident can we actually be that something we think is a minor issue is actually larger. And this is just something that requires conversation, requires a lot of collaboration across the organization, but it's something that we use those metrics that we can borrow from the financial industry, basically more or less on stock valuation, to try to do this. And it just creates some challenges with our field.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Yes.
What I heard him just say is, you don't know what you don't know.
It's true. So, but here, would you guys? I'm going to suggest something. I want to get feedback. So, IT, I think, we always get blamed for, wanting to spend money and gold plating what we do. And why do you think that is? I believe, and I want to say what my belief is from my experience, but I want to hear feedback. But is that because we always get the blame when something breaks, when a system's not available, or when think, oh, IT, why did this happen? You guys aren't doing your job. Like, so what happened at state? Ledge Audit came back and said, you need to maintain your gear. We had identified a single point of failure for like 5-6 years. It went in budget after budget, got denied, and finally the last one was denied by the legislature. I said, you guys said no funding for this. We told you it was going to be bad if it breaks, and now you want to blame us, right? So we were always fearful of saying there's options on risk and what is your risk appetite. We were just saying, we don't want to be the ones blamed, so here's your gold-plated only option. I want it super quadruple redundant. I want that, and I'll do anything I can to protect you guys from your own ignorance. That's how we felt as IT. Anyone agree, disagree? I see a hand up back there.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of people take us for granted.
They do.
It's convenient for them. If it doesn't affect them, why do they care?
But
We lose money, we lose the budget.
that's totally counter to the I'm a part of the business.
Right.
And I'm not a InfoSec practitioner. I'm a healthcare worker.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I think a lot of times if you really were able to get an executive cornered and be honest, they would say they also feel like that they're not understood or respected. Because they're the ones having to be up there at the top making it all work, and sometimes they get fearful of the unknown. And technology is something that really intimidates a lot of executives. So they just make it go away, don't put that on me, I'll have you be responsible. But you know what's happening now in the world? Who's getting fired? CEOs, CFOs. This is a great way to dialogue it with them now, saying, look, I want to protect you. I'm your partner here. I'll be honest with you if you be honest with me. Look, it's like buying insurance. 49% are the disengaged. They're the sleepwalkers. They come to work once o'clock. They do work, but they're not really engaged. Just give me my paycheck. I'm a programmer. I don't care what the company does. Just I come and do my job. I go home and I get paid. So it's not bad, but the idea is to try and convert more of those disengaged people into the engaged column to say we want more people understanding it. But so leaders are supposed to do this. They're supposed to go and share the mission and vision with you. And most of the time there's this big gap because leaders aren't doing their job, but then at the same time the line people need to be able to communicate effectively back, right? So, and then they usually complicate it worse by putting middle management in between. And it's just like really messed up. Yes?
You talk about leadership.
Yes?
Everybody sees a leader at a high level, C-level, maybe VP or not. It's really, you got to see it from the top down, all the way down to the guy who does the back end.
Absolutely. When I worked at the hospital, I went up there and when I asked all those people what the mission and vision was and they couldn't tell me, I went up to the executives and said, you're not doing your job because you're supposed to be the ones sharing this mission and vision and leading people to it. People follow leaders. And then I went to the line staff and I said, if you don't know that, try and engage. Yes, Mary.
I think you just hit something though, because in a growing organization, your leaders are usually the highly risk tolerant. And if we really were risk intolerant, everyone in this room would have bought a burial plan.
love it.
We truly were serious about risk. I think it's the wrong question. I think we need to look instead, you're driving to this point, but the additive to the business, and never mind talking risk. That's a metric that matters in our world. We understand it. To try to sell it and educate it to it, work on selling burial plots.
I love Mary. She's one of my heroes, Mary. I've known her for quite a while. But that's a really good point, and it's kind of where I was drawing to is, understanding all this at the end of the day, simplify it. Take the complexity. What was it Einstein said? Make it as simple as possible, but not simpler. Metrics sometimes they create bad behavior because people are confused. They don't even know what the mission or vision is, and what are our outcomes, and how do we measure that? So that's a really good point. So here's the takeaways. Get engaged in your business purpose. Try to be the engaged staff. Oh, I was going to say the 18% that are left, the actively disengaged, they're the hair in the biscuit. Employees that are not happy with themselves, they're not happy with what anyone else is doing, and are undermining the engaged people all the time. And if you don't change their behavior, you have to get them out of the organization.
Yet at the same time, security-wise, your greatest risks are your users on your network.
Absolutely.
So, and it can be the disengaged. It could actually be an engaged person that's actively looking for a way to get your data and co-opt you.
Yeah.
You could be looking at a very mixed bundle.
That's true. That is exactly true. So you are in a relationship. Communicate effectively. Understand that. They have their things that bother them, keep them up at night. You have yours, and they can come together and try and be part of the solution. And I know you guys do. You guys are rock stars in my book. I mean, to people that every day, keep the people's companies running and available and secure, they're the rock stars in my book. So you guys rock. But I'm just trying to help with the people I also work with, which are the ones that are responsible for writing the paychecks and making the company work. So, and then measure the right things, those that align to the business purpose, and it's more than just compliance. Understand risk holistically and communicate honestly. So be always transparent and honest. I know it's hard because we start playing this chess game. Well, those guys, so we're going to do this, and we're going to kind of throw that out there. And it's like you're not even in the same team in a way. And I get it. There's two sides to this, right? But I can only talk to the ones that are here. Yes?
I think this is more of a personal, interpersonal communication problem than an actual technical problem, isn't it? Because people are fine with leaders getting paid more and all that, but if they're not taking responsibility for the security of their group, the security of their corporation, then no one wants to follow them. You're going to have more disgruntled employees.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the truth. I believe that. That's why I wanted to kind of take this in a different track today and talk about how important communication is in every relationship, including at work. And it's like when you first whipped out the formula. I know executives they get cross-eyed. You just intimidate them when you do that. What does that even mean to me? I could be the guy who's responsible for the race team, and you're the mechanic, and you're telling me about air fuel mixture, blah, 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 PSI. And I'm like, just make the car go faster already. I don't care about that, right? So it's saying, hey, if I do all this blah, 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 whizzity stuff, then the car's going to go faster, we're going to win races, and that's going to, put more money in your pocket or whatever. So now you got their attention, and you're going to get more buy-in from them.
Connected with the organizational goals, and they'll be more easy to buy.
Absolutely. Find a way to talk about what's important to them and show them that you understand that. You're not just a disengaged employee coming and punching the clock and doing your security role and going home. That you care about the company, you're engaged, and you're there. Any other thoughts, questions, or where are we at on time?
You have 3 more minutes.
3? Who wants to bring us home?
So the comment, the question that I have is, asking the IT professional just on a simple RPO, recovery point objective, recovery time objective exercise.
Yes.
And they're stuck guessing, right? Because the inflow of information into the IT organization is limited in terms of what an IT service that they depend upon is actually how valuable its uptime is to the organization. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I think we could be doing is start asking these questions about, can you show us your value streams? We can map the IT services to those, and then give us a sense of what that value stream is valuable to the organization.
Absolutely.
That's easy.
That's a good point. So a DR Coop plan is only good if it's what? Or tested. Or How do you know? It's all like it's a 2-hour RPO and RTO and whatever, is going to be from like 15 minutes ago. If you don't really test that to the impact of the organization, how do you know? And most of them don't do it. They just write it so they can say they complied, check the box, but they have no really way to demonstrate that it actually works. I did one for an insurance company, a business insurance company here in Anchorage that was switching over things to Hillsboro, Oregon, and we had to test it. And they were using SnapMirror and all that stuff. And we literally had to test if this thing went down and there was a major disaster to the building, can we operate within our RT as an RP? And when we first did it, they were like, oh, that's not fast enough. We needed to email up faster than that because we can't even communicate. Oh, well, let's start thinking about that, right? So it's a great point. Any others around the time or?
Yeah, you're good.
Any other thoughts? Well, hey, I hope that something you could take out of here today was helpful. And I know it was a little different than maybe most of the technical people like, but I can get technical too. I can get down to, tuples and whatever you want to go and any layer of the OSI model and stateful packet inspection. But to me, this is, how many in here subscribe to management? You're not management now, but you want to be someday. Well, good. This will be very helpful for you because I see the future of our world right here. Young people that are engaged, that are going to be the next leaders, and you're going to be able to speak both languages. So there you go. Thank you.